You know that the deception that has been playing in Toronto Maple Leaf jerseys for the last 50 plus years are not really the legacy of the great Toronto Maple Leafs and Toronto teams in organized pro hockey. Now today we're going to look back at an era from 100 years ago where Toronto was the kings of the NHL, the kings of the Stanley Cup, but they weren't the Toronto Maple Leafs at the time. Now, we're going to talk about the history and the great success of the short-lived Toronto arenas. Now, the Toronto arenas, or the Torontos as they were called, were a pro men's ice hockey team that played in the first two seasons of the NHL. It was operated by the owner of the Arena Gardens, the Toronto Arena Company. As the ownership of the NHA, Toronto Blue Shirts franchise was in dispute, the new NHL league was started and a temporary Toronto franchise was operated. The NHL itself was intended to only be a one-year entity until the NHA could be reactivated, although it never was. Now, for the first season, 1917-18, the team operated without a formal organization separate from the Arena Company and without an official club nickname. However, the press would dub the team the Blue Shirts, or Torontos, as he had done with the NHA franchise. After the 19th season, the Arena Company was granted a permanent franchise in the NHL, which evolved in today's Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, that 17-18 season was legendary because by the fall of 17, a dispute between Eddie Livingston, owner of the Blue Shirts, and the owners of the NHA's other four clubs, the Montreal Canadiens, Montreal Wanderers, Ottawa Senators, Quebec Bulldogs, had come to a boil. The other NHA owners were eager to disassociate themselves from Livingston, but discovered that the NHA's constitution did not allow them to simply vote him out. With this in mind, on November 22nd, the NHA Board of Directors voted to suspend operations. At the same time, the other four NHA clubs voted to create a new league, the National Hockey League. However, they did not invite Livingston to join them, effectively leaving him in a one-team league. However, the other club owners felt it would be unthinkable not to have a team from Canada's second-largest city in NHL. They also needed a fourth team to balance the schedule. Now, since the Bulldogs were forced to suspend operations due to financial troubles, as it turned out would not return until 1920, to solve the problem, NHL President Frank Calder assigned the contracts of the Blue Shirt players to a temporary Toronto franchise to be operated by the Toronto Arena Company, which also owned the Montreal Arena. No conflict of interest there. Now, Calder had ordered Livingston to sell the team, but Livingston turned down several offers. The Arena Company was given a year to resolve the dispute or lose the franchise. The Arena Company did agree to compensate Livingston for use of the players for the season, although no suitable figure was ever reached, and the league itself disputed any claims that Livingston had on the players. Now, as Arena Gardens were the only suitable place to play at the time, the players had little choice but to play for the Arena team if they wanted to play in the NHL. The NHL had also publicly announced there was an agreement to buy out Livingston, though this never took place. The team, again, did not have an official name, but since it was made mostly of former Blue Shirts, the media and fans called them the Torontos or even the Blue Shirts, as they had Livingston's former team. Many of the players signed contracts with both Livingston and the Torontos, and often were paid in cash or personal checks on a week-by-week basis. Despite this uncertainty, the team was successful to start under coach Dick Carroll and general manager Charlie Query. This team won the second half of the 1918 season, leading to a playoff against the Habs. The Torontos won the playoff and would face off against the Vancouver Millionaires for the Stanley Cup. Toronto then went on to win the best-of-5 series 3-2. After the Cup win, the team did not engrave its names on the Stanley Cup, as would later become the custom. Now, unlike the other two NHL franchises with NHA roots, the Canadiens and the Senators, the Maple Leafs do not claim the Blue Shirts' history as their own, as the NHL was formed to remove Livingston from the NHA, and that franchise was folded. As such, pre-NHL Toronto could not be part of Maple Leafs history. The EU, however, claimed the history of the temporary Toronto franchise of 1917-18. Now, in 1918, before the 1918-19 season, the NHA voted to suspend operations once again, and the other owners made plans to operate the NHL for a second season. Since the Torontos had won the Cup, even more revenue was at stake, and Livingston held out for $20,000, though the Arena offered $6,000. This led to Livingston filing another lawsuit, this time against the arena owners. In response, instead of returning the players to Livingston or even paying him, the arena company returned their temporary franchise to the NHL and immediately formed a new club, the Toronto Arena Hockey Club, popularly known as the Toronto Arenas, with arena company author Hubert V. Macomb as president. The new club was a separate corporation that can exist separate from any legal action. This new team was readily admitted to the NHL as a member of good standing. The Maple Leafs themselves say they were known as the Arenas during their first season, but the name Arenas was not recorded to commemorate the team's 1918 Cup victory until '47. They also cited that only NHL teams would be allowed to play at Arena Gardens, effectively foreclosing Livingston's efforts to resurrect the NHA. Now, to restate and clarify a somewhat confusing series of events, 4 of the 5 clubs that played the NHA seceded to form the NHL in 1917. The players from the 5th club, the Blue Shirts, were leased to the arena company and skated as a temporary Toronto NHL franchise in the league's first season. After Toronto's won the Stanley Cup, the arena company was granted a permanent NHL franchise, but retained the former Blue Shirts player. It is this franchise that became the lineage of today's Maple Leafs. Now, this year, 1919, the club was not successful, falling to 5-13, finishing last in both halves of the season. Attendance was poor, recorded as only hundreds for February 8 and 4th, 1919 game against the Habs. Several players left the team, including Harry Holmes, Harry Meekin, and Dave Ritchie. This was partly due to the legal status of the team, since most players were still property of the Blue Shirts. They didn't have formal contracts and were paid under the table in cash. Now, the team wrote to Calder to end the season early, and the season ended after each team had played 18 games. The Toronto Arenas then officially withdrew from the league on February 20th, 1919. This left the 2 remaining teams, Montreal and Ottawa, to play playoff for the league title. Now, on December 13, 1919, the NHL approved the sale of Arenas to a group fronted by Query for $5,000. While the money was to go to Livingston to compensate him for the loss of his NHA franchise, he never received the money. By all accounts, Calder pocketed the money himself. The team was renamed the Toronto St. Pat's, and the incorporation date of the club was December 22nd, 1919. Query, Ferd Hambley, Percy Hambley, and Paul Cesare owned 99 shares each, while Richard Greer owned 4 shares. Now, notable players on the squad, of course, include Jack Adams, a Hall of Famer, who was a later Detroit coach and GM. Hap Holmes, of course, a Hall of Fame goaltender. Harry Cameron, a Hall of Fame defenseman. Reg Noble, a Hall of Fame center. And Rusty Crawford, a Hall of Fame left winger. So just to recap of that arena lineup from that season, you had 18 championships. Rusty Crawford, Harry Meekin, Ken Randall, Corbett Dennehy, Harry Cameron, Dick Carroll, Jack Adams, Charles Query, Al Skinner, Frank Carroll, Harry Mummery, Harry Hap Holmes, and Reg Noble. Now, the royal blue and white logo, pretty well a large T on the front, but let us just remember, ladies and gentlemen, they were called the Toronto Hockey Club, then the Toronto Arenas, Toronto St. Pat's, Toronto Maple Leafs, the present. But the evolution of the Maple Leafs started with the Toronto Pro HC of the OPHL, then the Toronto Blue Shirts of the NHA, then the Toronto Arenas of the NHL, the Toronto St. Pat's of the NHL, and then from 1927 on, the Maple Leafs. So a very soap opera-ish start to the franchise, but when it comes down to this, they won the title in their first year, got past Montreal and the other heavy contenders, and for me, like I said, a classic post-World War I economic boom story where everybody was getting into hockey, which led, of course, to the Montreal Canadiens taking it at a high level, Ottawa Senators, the U.S. expansion, later on with Detroit. So everything of the success of the 20s, 30s, and 40s and 50s of the NHL comes down to this 1918 season where Toronto, a team from Toronto, led the way in what's called the greatest sports association of the 20th and 21st century. NHL is a tremendous organization. It represents a whole country. How many leagues can say that? Major League Baseball doesn't. NFL. You take the NHL, you think Canada. And it started all about somebody being jealous of somebody else. Typical Canadian soap opera. So if you like what we're doing here, ladies and gentlemen, give us a like, comment, and subscribe. If you're a Toronto Maple Leaf fan, if it's the first time you're hearing about their first Stanley Cup in the Toronto area, I call it, you're welcome. Have a good day. Bye.